The bit of drama there was that they said you have $12,000 to do this test, and I vomited in the parking lot.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of In the Unlikely Event. My name is Rick Kiley, one of the founding partners of SoHo Experiential, a New York-based marketing agency that has created and produced thousands of events in our 20-year history. Joining me today are two exceptional event creators and producers, John Millward and Jeffrey Berke. John Millward is the Chief Creative Officer here at SoHo Experiential, where he leads creative, strategy, innovation, and business development for Fortune 500 brands across spirits, tech, hospitality, and retail. Jeffrey Berke has 20 plus years of experience leading large-scale events, venue design and construction, corporate brand experiences, and multimedia installations. John, Jeffrey, welcome to In the Unlikely Event.
Hey.
Happy to be here.
So let me set the scene for the unlikely event that we are discussing today. All right. So back before John Millward joined us here at SoHo Experiential, he was part of another agency, CMI, and found himself in the middle of one of those once-in-a-lifetime projects that sounds thrilling at first until the reality of the situation crashed down on him. Today, we're going to take you behind the scenes of that story where John and Jeffrey met for the first time, a massive Olympic campaign that started far too late and tested the resilience and fortitude of everyone that touched it. That Olympic dream crashed down on John and Jeffrey in a very real and very challenging way. Gentlemen, let's light that torch. Maybe could each of you take a couple minutes and then let us know what each of you were doing, like what your role was at the time of this activation, which was like 25 years ago, almost 23 years ago. You know, John, do we want to start with you?
Sure. Working at CMI was my first experiential marketing gig. I started on the road doing guerrilla marketing and had a blast. And very quickly, after about 6 or 7 months of being on the road, was invited to move to New Jersey from Idaho and help run the Reebok campaign. And it was, you know, at that point, 4 years before the Olympics, that my mentor and the head of sales then said, listen, we don't have any business at the Olympics, but I swear in 4 years we'll have it and you'll be going there. So some
Nice.
Foreshadowing on the very first day I started. So
Very cool.
It was, it came as a surprise, but it shouldn't have. It ended up happening. So I was
Great.
forewarned.
All right. Jeffrey, how about you?
Yeah, the time that I met John and this whole experience unfolded, I was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I had a small production company, and the city had recently been awarded the Olympic bid, and I felt like that was an adventure. I wanted to ride that roller coaster somehow.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we were positioning to capture some kind of business and activity associated with the Olympics and working hard at it and waiting to see what would happen.
Cool. So let's set the stage for the story. John, I want you to take us back to the very beginning. What was this Olympic project, and how did you end up being the guy responsible for it?
Yeah, very early on in my stay at CMI, Group SFX, which is now Live Nation, bought CMI. So as part of our growth strategy, CMI then made an acquisition of Silverback or Heffernan Interactive, which was founded by two of the guys from Coke that ran the Atlanta Olympics. So there was some pedigree there. So back of the napkin sort of sales process, they met with the Olympic folks from Coke and had sold this project in early on, a couple years early. And there was a dramatic moment in our agency history where this was a big theatrical experience that we really didn't have the staff in place in Salt Lake City to do it. So that created a void. I had the pleasure of working with Dan West, who had produced several Olympics and traveled the world for Coke Sports, who is now at CMI, who was like, I think if I was going to put anybody in that place, it would be John. look, and to be fair, I was 28, right? And I was a former tour manager, and I'd worked on some gigs, I'd worked on some tours and some fun stuff, but nothing Olympic sized.
Right.
So this was a great big opportunity, short deadline, and I had the confidence of two mentors that I really believed in, and they said you could do it, and that kind of bolstered my confidence, and so I moved to Salt Lake.
From what I understand, perhaps not everybody, when they met you for the first time, said, "This is our guy." I think your phrasing to me was more along the lines of, "Who's this fucking guy?" Right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, the beautiful part is that I knew I was capable.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
I had all the confidence in the world, and I never once ever thought about their perspective until after the initial meeting of Coke and the clients.
Then let's talk a little bit about, the key players in the story, who you met, and I guess like what I also want to know is like, what were the expectations? Because this was a very high profile activation, right? So we're talking. You've mentioned they want someone who's worked the Super Bowl halftime show before. Like they obviously, Coke has very high aspirations for what's going on here. Can you talk a little bit about who the people are that you met and like what was riding on this thing?
Yeah, look, in North America, activation is very important for Coke. Coke engages their customers, their consumers, and their partners in hospitality. This is a way that they show up. It's at that time over 100-year-old brand and one of the longest standing Olympic sponsors. So to do this right was important. And just on the steering committee, you had the chairman of the board from Coke. And so this was very visible inside at the most senior level. So it was really important. They had leveraged a lot of resources against it and were taking on an ambitious project. And so that's number one. So just walking into the office, I think it's pretty fair to say I probably disappointed them right away. In the sense that I didn't come with the pedigree that they had hoped. They were like, well, you're kind of just a project manager, but we'll let you talk to the big boss. Okay. And they said, if you can convince him, then maybe you got a shot. So they threw me into the office with Haven, who is legendary leader, creative visionary, and executional guru. And I think I didn't breathe. I think I stream of consciousness, laid all my hopes and dreams. I laid out my vision, which I had just crafted that day, and how I was going to help them pull off this initiative. And I might have just talked enough to give him a little bit of hope that I might not have all the experience, but I definitely had the energy. So I got to go on to the next hurdle, which was a team meeting of like the executive level. All these guys are 20, 30-year vets, 5 or 6 different Olympics. They all own their own company. And this was a smaller conference room. I go in, they put up an org chart, and above my position is TBD. So another confidence builder. Not that I expected to be handled, but it just stood out to me. And I introduced myself. I said, hi, I'm TBD. This is my background. This is my story. This is my vision. This is my passion for this. And this is how I hope to contribute. So yeah, it was gauntlet.
All right. Trial by Olympic fire. All right. Yeah. It seems like you navigated that. So tell us kind of when the project started to get interesting. And then Jeffrey, how did you get involved in this story? Like when do you come into this tale here?
Let me kick that back to John, because there's a piece that how John and I met was still an outgrowth of John wandering into the wilderness like this.
Yeah. All right, John. How do we get Jeffrey into this story?
Yeah. So the last hurdle, I called back to the mothership and Live Nation. I'm like, I need somebody who produced a halftime show. I need like like a global leader in creative activations. Please help me. Yeah. They're like, yeah, don't know anybody.
That's nice.
Largest producer of live entertainment in the world. And they're like, no, sorry, can't help you. And I'm like, man, okay. That's not the answer I expected. So I said, is there anybody in Salt Lake? And they're like, well, we have this touring theater group that's out there. And there's a guy that you might want to talk to is Steve. So I'm like, Steve, look, I'm in a bind. I need somebody that can help me pull this off. And he's like, it's not us, John. It's like, but it might be this guy, Jeffrey. He goes, but you guys should meet. Jeffrey came in and we started to talk. We connected immediately, and I started to see light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what Jeffrey saw, but I was glad that he was open for the opportunity.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I'm wondering if that's how you recall it.
Well, I was also like in my early 30s, and I was a veteran of like, I'd already done like 20 Super Bowl halftime shows, and I'd produced the Academy Awards several times. So I really felt like I was bringing something to the, no, I was like,
Yeah,
I was
this is
green,
sarcasm for the audience.
Yeah, I was as green as John. The only thing that I had going for me, I think, was that I actually did. I mean, I had a production company that was 6 months old, and I had started a live event production company with the intention of bringing, an artistic and theatrical sensibility to whatever this, corporate event production world was. And I was, at the time, I was thinking about this. I'd been inspired. There was a book that came out in 1999 called The Experience Economy. Joe Pine. And that book blew my mind apart in 1999, 2000 when I read it. And they were basically saying that the value that's created by an experience eclipses the value of the commodity by itself. And
Sure.
that you could charge $5 for a latte if you create, a European cafe vibe, but prior to that, you were only charging, $1.50.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this idea that there was value in creating an experience, when John and I started talking in 2000 or 2001, this was a brand new idea in the marketplace that I felt passionate and ignited about. And I felt like, for me, this is exactly the fit for a theater kid, with a little live event production company to try to do something. And John came to me and said, we're looking for something theatrical that speaks to a large scale experience. And do you know how to do that? And I said, well, maybe.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I don't want to take us off the rails here, but I think a lot of people came into this industry from the theater world. Like, I was a theater major in college. I worked in not-for-profit theater for years, and then I found my way into this. And I think the storytelling aspect and the event production it's the same, whether you're telling a scripted tale or the story of a brand, and you're trying to connect with an audience. And I think that's great. And I love that that's how you came into the business. Makes me feel very happy and seen. So you guys got together, you joined forces we got Han Solo and Luke Skywalker who are together, who are trying to save the universe. How did that move forward? Was that just, oh, hey, John and Jeffrey are on it, everything's great from here, guys, right? Like, I think there was more, right? What happened next?
Let me throw in one piece, right? And then because I know, John, you're going to know what to say after this, that John's like, okay, well, who's your team? And I was like, well, I don't want to lie to you and tell you that I have them already.
John's like, that's my line.
But, I put together a team, and I a creative director and a project manager and maybe a script writer. I put together a creative team, and I brought him to John. John was like, oh, great. And I was like, here's my team. And he brought him to Coke, and they were like, yeah, no. Like, absolutely not. Like, okay. No. So that's as far as I went. And then shit got real.
Okay. Well, what happened when they said no to the team?
Well, the first, I just want to put a cultural moment that was happening alongside of all of this. Okay. My first day in Utah on the ground was 9/11. So it was a major issue. Olympics was a target. Coke could no longer travel. So
Okay.
the team, Hayden in his wisdom was like, this is not the team. You haven't found it yet. And so
Okay.
we went back and said, okay, we need somebody bigger. Think bigger, I think was the message from Haven. And so Jeffrey had started to connect with his resources. Now you can tell the story about how we found Steve.
Yeah. That's like a backdrop to this entire story, really, for the rest of the next 6 months. John, you came back to me and you said, yeah, they're not going to buy off on this team. Who else do you have? Who else you got? And I didn't have anyone else, but I had a production manager working at my office, and he said, you might want to talk to Steve Carroll. Let's shout out to our friend Steve Carroll. You might want to talk to Steve Carroll. I got Steve on the phone. He said all the right things. I flew out to San Jose. I sat in a hotel lobby with Steve. He became one of my mentors. I think he became one of your mentors for a while. Yeah. And he was a former Disney creative exec. He had produced Super Bowl halftime shows, and he had produced big chunk of Coke's activations at the Atlanta Olympics 96. So he had the pedigree, he had the vocabulary, he had the skill set, he had all the right things. He had he had friends and co-creators who were available to bring to the team. So I managed to lock down Steve Carroll by offering him a salary I had no idea how I was going to pay. But then I thought we have no other options. And also Steve was brilliant, kind, creative, and one of the most influential people in my career at that time. And so, if we fast forward, good things happened. But at the time, it was like, sure, I'll pay you that. Let me see if this is going to fly with CMI and the Coke team.
All right.
The magical moment is when Steve flew up from California to meet Haven. Steve walked in. They saw each other and hugged. They had worked together the whole time on the Coke Olympics.
Oh, amazing.
And Haven's like, you got it. You nailed it.
Great.
Perfect team. So we went from, and look, this was the biggest lesson I'd learned up to that point, is that if you look back and say, how did that work? I found an extremely capable and willing partner that had amazing on-the-ground resources.
So was this the moment, like when you had Steve come on board and this meeting with Haven and Haven saying yes, at that point, did you finally start to feel like, okay, we got this now? Or are we not quite there? Or are we not quite there
yet?
Like,
but that was an illusion.
We've got all of the challenges leading up to get the project. We've got 9/11, which is like, what's funny is, and I think one thing I just want to put in perspective for the audience is, like, right now it's 2025 and the experiential live events business is pretty big. And in 2001, I don't even think there were that many people that could do what you were being asked to do. The industry has like grown up so much. It was like being invented then. Like you guys were.
It's the only reason I got that job is there was nobody else that.
Right.
There was no line of people saying, I've done that.
Yeah. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I read a book.
Yeah, right.
I read a book. No, that's amazing. So you got Steve, you feel good, but you're not like we're over the finish line yet. Yeah?
Well, look, it felt better.
Right.
But the reality is, again, like, everybody's career is on the line. My direct supervisor, Keith, every day when I would walk in, he goes, I'm not afraid to fire you. I'm like, yes, you said that yesterday. I hear you. We had the most like beautiful and toxic relationship. There was a moment where we had to find budget for boots for the entire 200 staff.
Wow.
And Keith said, man, I don't have it in my budget. And I said, if I can find it in my budget, do you promise never to ask me about my budget again? And he's like, sure. And it was like a back alley deal with my client where we would negotiate like with terrorists with each other. So every day, it was like every day for like 6 weeks. I'm not afraid to fire you. Great, Keith. Good morning. So,
oh man.
Keith had said, listen, man, here's what we need to be able to do. Proof of concept. He goes, you have 4 weeks. I need you to build the set, write the scripts, cast the main characters for the show. And I need you to do a live demo in Park City for 60 Coke executives.
Okay. 4 weeks. Wait, how long of a musical number? Like, what's the show? Like, roughly? So what ends up being produced is we created a format that created a live performance stage with an MC. Okay.
That was a versatile character that could do everything from interviewing world-class athletes to giving updates to hosting trivia game shows on stage.
We called them an EJ, experience jockey.
All right.
We made that up. And one of the reasons we were doing this.
Jockey. Man, that sounds like a brand of underwear. Experience jockey.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
God.
it is now.
It is now.
On today's podcast, I'm wearing. So one of the reasons we had to do this wacky facts thing is because we ended up writing the script. This is after the demo.
Yeah.
We did the demo to show the Coke team we could have this kind of segment with a game show. We could have this kind of audience interaction. We could have this kind of athlete interview. We had to demonstrate these modular script segments that could be reordered or reconfigured or updated in real time, because Coke also wanted us to respond to the games in real time, so that if so-and-so from such and such a country won an event and we could grab those athletes later in the day and get them on stage, which we did, then we wanted to update that segment of the script to be specific to either that sport or the athlete or the country or all three. And so we're faxing new script modules depending on who won the bobsled bronze, because we can get them.
And in different languages, right?
And we did this in 6 languages.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 4 weeks to put this thing together. 6 language,
Go.
EJs, dancing cats, the whole thing. Yeah. So what happened here?
So the bit of drama there was that they said you have $12,000 to do this test, and I vomited in the parking lot.
Like literal? Like you actually did?
Yeah. No, threw up.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to solve it. So and this is just full of drama. It's full of drama. I call up Steve and Jeffrey and I'm like, hey, this is what I have to do. And after they were like, I said, and they're like, all right, what's the budget? And I'm like, it's $12,000. And Steve goes, I'd rather quit. And oh man, all the blood drained out of my face. And he's like, he goes, I'd rather quit than see you fail. We can do something, but we can't do that. I'm like, fine. How much do you think it would be? He goes, I'll have you a number tomorrow. So they call up, and again, remember, this is like a $30 million project. But me, 20-year-old project manager's never gone over budget ever.
Right.
So they call back and they're like, we can do this for $25,000. This is $2,000 prices. Don't expect that now.
Right.
And I called up the CEO of CMI and I'm like, hey, bad news.
Right.
I got to pull this off and I can do it. I feel confident I can do it, but I'm going to go $13,000 over budget. He's like, oh, man, why are you calling? He goes, you have just your budget alone is like 10 million. So we were able to make it happen.
Nice.
And the amazing thing is we have an event venue that's got a natural amphitheater outside of it. So we asked Haven to address the 60 executives outside, cover off on some business. We had given some hospitality. There was Cokes to be drank and food to be eaten. And as they were mingling and shaking hands before the next part of the show, we had placed some litter around the space. And then in came a cleaning crew. And that cleaning crew started to clean up and kind of bumping in people and excusing themselves. And they were in overalls. And then all of a sudden, they flipped their lids on the garbage cans. They were a percussion team. Then there was a dance team that wove them from the amphitheater into the event center where our MC was ready. The set was beautiful. The music was going. And this, rightfully so, experienced and maybe jaded group of 60 executives were lit on fire.
Nice.
It was amazing. It was the most amazing professional moment of my life where everything threaded the needle. The next day, Keith, my boss, instead of threatening to fire me, presented me with an award, which called me his rock.
Nice.
I still have it back there somewhere.
Nice.
And we were off to the races. We had solidified it as a team. We had proved to ourselves that the concept works. We got complete support from the 60 executives on the show. And we had this really beautiful moment of like, hey, this is going to be okay. That's the only time that we could look forward with real optimism.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, because what happened on they said, hey, we need to do this demo for all these Coke executives, and Steve and I and our scriptwriter Tom got together, and I was like, we're gonna die. Like, we can't. They're all gonna come in. All these Coke executives are gonna be like, all right, show us your creative. Show us what you have now. And I'm like, no audience comes to an event with that attitude. Audiences come looking forward to, like, we need to create the experience where they're like looking forward to it. By the way, that cleanup crew, they were actually called the cleanup crew. They were like 3 Utah percussionists that wore jumpsuits and had trash cans. And I was like, okay, let's get them in here.
That's so
and
funny.
the dance company, we should come back to this because the dance company also, Utah dancers, got people I've worked with before. I was like, grab the choreographers. We got to come up with a thing that does this and this. And he was like, okay, let me get 12 dancers and we'll do this thing. Like, this was all bespoke, customized, that then rolled into the Olympic activation later. We just made it up for the demo and then it evolved. But I was like, we're going to die if these executives come in, show me your creative work. And I was like, what if we, when everyone comes in, we tell them they're from a country. So we make them into teams. So you're the UK group, and you're the Sweden group, and now they're like making little cliques, and they're in competition with each other, and they're cheering for stuff. And then Steve took it one step further, and he personally was standing in front. He showed up with a stack of sticky name tags and a Sharpie, and people came in and he was like, what country are you from? They're like, I'm from the UK. And he's like, okay, you're William Shakespeare. And he put a William Shakespeare. You're Queen Elizabeth. Boom. You're Jonas Salk. And he was putting name tags on people, so they were no longer Coke executives.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah. So brilliant to condition the audience.
Great little touch.
Change their mind frame.
Still irrelevant, like we're in the unlikely event, podcast, like still a very relevant device to use that, take the audience into the frame of mind you need them to be in. There are devices to do that. There are practices to do that. Now this is all, we all have Rolodexes full of 24 people we could call to help us with this. But at the time, it was like me and John and Steve trying to make it up.
No, I mean, you guys were inventing solutions, inventing an industry, part of that. Like, I think that's a really fun part of the early days of experiential marketing. And it's awesome you're able to pull that off. So you got through the test, right? And we made the Coke executives happy. They were all athletes from different countries, and you finally felt good. How did it go? How did the athletes, how did the people respond? How many people went through? Tell me about what happened there.
One more fun plot twist is that after this really engaging and entertaining test, we started to develop the scripts and the modules and mapping out how we were going to create this, about 900 shows over 17 days across 3 venues.
That's a big number.
And it's a lot of content. I don't think I'll ever, to be quite honest, get to experience something like that again in my life. It was so beautiful. There was so much great tension, obstacles, finding new ways of doing things, finding partners way out of my depth, bringing all of those people together, and then having 17 days of really successful moments, and seeing like Dan Jansen stand on our stage and shed a tear about the fact that Coke supports athletes, and that's rare in this country. And seeing that play over and over every night from every athlete, seeing kids in snowboarding, first year it was in the Olympics, winning a gold medal, and then first place they win is our stage.
That's amazing.
It was like magic. It was truly the magic that creative guy from Coke wanted. It was just woven in between entertainment and fun and touching moments. We also, by the way, because Utah is so populated with missionaries that have served missions in foreign countries, we were able to staff individuals that represented every language from the constituents that bought ticket blocks. Didn't matter where you were from. When you showed up at Coca-Cola, you were home.
That's
and that
great.
played out 500,000 times.
Amazing.
People were welcomed in their language, into their brand, and had an experience, whether you were blind or if you were hearing impaired and you could watch the show and read it in sign language, or if you spoke a totally different language, you can ask for help around the Olympic Square from somebody who spoke your language and had an affinity. In our casting process, you had two choices. You could either ask somebody to look like they were an Olympian and learn the script about Coke, or we could find people, and this was our casting strategy, let's find people with Olympic stories and let's enable them to connect with humans. We didn't script them.
Right.
We said, I want you to talk about what the Olympics means to you.
Yeah.
We brought a guy out, former head of marketing for Heineken, came out. He was at Live Nation, and he came and he walked our footprint. And I walked him through what I just walked you through, Rick, and he saw those people and he met those people and he saw the show happening. And Darren walked out of that building and he was crying because it was so friggin' poignant.
Poignant.
To meet those people and hear those stories and understand it wasn't about what was on stage. It was like, who was serving you a friggin' Coke?
Yeah.
Was somebody who fought to be there and that were busting with pride to tell you about it or tell you about their country. I'll never get to experience that again in my life. And it was so magical, down to every single detail, every music note, every script that was written, every person that came in there was all enveloped in this Olympic spirit. And really, it was all a vision of Haven Rivera. And it was all a true honor to bring that to life. And that interpretation through Jeffrey, Tom Childs, Steve Carroll, and to be able to interpret that vision in a way that so granularly resonated across so many people was so amazing. I mean, loved it. Shaped the rest of my career, for sure.
Yeah. As we get to the close here, I think just, quickly, if you each had one like key lesson that you've either taken with you or would like to pass along that like this experience really brought to life for you, I'm just curious as to what that is. If you're having an experience where you're vomiting in a parking lot, like that is a severe trial. So you obviously emerge more powerful from it, but what's a thing that you would want others to take away and you've taken forward from it?
Trust John Millward. If he says he's going to do it, it's going to get done.
All right. That's fine. John, is it trust yourself?
No, I think it's the similar vein. It's that if I went in only prepared to do what I've done or what I know, I would have been severely limited and not qualified.
Yeah.
The only thing that qualified me is ambition and willing to see what could happen.
Right.
And I think so much of that gets lost in our process of really opening ourselves up to find the right partners but not compromise on the vision. The vision never changed.
Right.
The vision always was this enhance, never interrupt, this global marketing moment, this personalized experience for 500,000 people from different parts of the country, all felt like this place belonged to them. I was lucky enough to be a part of that experience.
Yeah.
And I was naive enough to think I could contribute. And by the end, I actually did, I hope.
Right.
But it changed my life. It changed the way I look at experiences and what's possible.
Yeah.
You know? So don't define it by what you know is possible.
Yeah.
I think is the important
That's great.
thing. So it's a yes-and mentality.
That's great. That's great. Cool. And look, the final question that we ask everybody is, this industry is a little bit nuts as you've lived through. What is it that keeps you coming back? You know, what is the draw to be working? There are easier jobs, I think is my point. There are things that are less stressful that don't cause you to vomit in the parking lot. You know, what is it about this that keeps you wanting to come back for more?
It's the creative process. Like, you've got to do something. You have no idea how you're going to do it. You have no idea how to get it done. All I have is a bunch of raw materials. Can I fashion these raw materials into an outcome that has meaning and purpose? That's a creative process. And then now at this stage, I'd say the opportunity is like to see a whole new generation of young artists and producers and visionaries and designers who have the same passion, and I can help to lead, inspire, and support them and prevent them from hurling in a parking lot because I've made their lives a little bit easier along the way. Then that's worth it.
Awesome. John?
Yeah, look, I think every job you do, regardless, is about solving a problem.
Yeah.
You got to pick the problems you love to solve. And so for me, I love these problems.
Right.
I love creating things out of nothing. I love the competition of the agency life.
Yeah.
I love the complete range of solutions that you have at your disposal, all the senses. And I love the impossible spirit that most people bring to this about accomplishing something great.
Awesome.
And it happens fast and it happens often and it happens for different brands. And I like that set of problems. I love it, actually.
Great. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both. I want a huge thanks to Jeffrey and to John for joining us today, reliving this adventure with us. I think it's proof that even under Olympic-sized pressure, creativity, grit, and the sense of humor can carry the day. I'm Rick Kiley. This has been In the Unlikely Event. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to In the Unlikely Event, where we unpack the moments that went wrong and celebrate the people who made them right. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And hey, while you're at it, drop us a review or share this episode with a fellow event pro who's been through their own little disaster. You can catch more great content by following Unlikely Event on YouTube, Unlikely Event Pod on Instagram and TikTok, and SoHo EXP on LinkedIn. I'm Rick Kiley, and I'll see you next time, right here on In the Unlikely Event.